being rational is really important to Charlie. I have actually not seen, obviously he has physically declined over the years because of his age. So, for example, he cannot play golf anymore. He used to play bridge at the club. He doesn't go to the club anymore. So his mobility is limited, but mentally he is very sharp. I think he gets tired more easily now. Sometimes I think he's gone to sleep. Like when we're talking, he's gone to sleep. And I'll say something, and then he just responds like he's been listening. But I don't notice any cognitive decline in him. And I think rationality is very, very central to what Charlie is all about. And one needs to be very rational in the business and investing world. One should be less rational with the relationships that we have. So relationships need more emotion. And so Charlie balances that really well. I think he has a very strong rational side. He can understand the situation, but then he can overlay the right emotions. So I see that he gets along with a wide range of people, and very few things bother him. I think he's, for example, when I go to dinner at his place, whatever they put in front of him to eat, he just eats. He never really makes a demand, I would like to have this kind of food or that kind of food. He's very kind of easygoing. The family restricts how much See's candy he eats. So usually when I go to his place for dessert, many times See's candy is served for dessert. And they tell me, look, we only bring out the See's candy like 2-3 times a month, even though maybe Charlie would like it more often. But you see in the Berkshire meeting and the Daily Journal meeting, he eats a lot of candy. And the reason is because no one can control him then. The candy sitting there, no one's going to come and tell him you can't eat, etc. So they let him do whatever he wants at the Berkshire meeting with how amount of candy he wants to eat. Yeah, so I think rationality is a very important reason for Charlie's success. It's really important for humans to understand that and get that from him.
在你理解什么样叫理性，或者你看到查理做的哪件事是理性，我们可以通过哪些方面，然后让自己变得更理性？
Yeah, I think one of the things he says is that humans usually will become irrational when they have an opinion about something. Okay, so for example, if you ask some humans, should Harvard University give preference to African Americans to enter a little bit easier than everybody else? Okay, so people will have different opinions. Some will say, no, please treat everyone the same. Others will say, no, this population was discriminated against in the past, and we need to make some changes to even the playing field. So there are different arguments on both sides. And the way Charlie would approach something like this, he says that you are not entitled to have an opinion unless you can state the arguments for the other side as well as you can state the argument for your opinion. So he feels that you should know both sides. Okay, so for example, Russia has invaded Ukraine. Right now, a lot of people will say that's terrible and it shouldn't have happened or whatever else, But Charlie would say, well, also we should look at it from the Russian side. We should understand what is going through their minds and why did they do it, as well as from the Ukrainian side. So basically, it is really difficult for humans to have both sides of the argument in their brain at the same time and be able to process it in a rational manner. What most humans will do is they will have an ideology, like they will believe Harvard should only take people based on merit and no other factors should come in. And they will not even consider the other side. And I think this is one of Charlie's great strengths. And the place where it comes into play a lot is, for example, when we look at making an investment into a company, there are lots and lots of factors that will affect the future outcome of that investment. Many factors that we may understand or not understand. Charlie feels, for example, like, and in fact, both Warren and Charlie, one of the tools they use to help them in the investing is, let's say they're looking at a particular company, let's say, which makes certain auto parts, for example, and they like the company, whatever. What they will try to do is they will try to go talk to competitors of the company, and they will ask the competitor, which companies in your industry do you admire a lot? And which companies do you think are really bad? And he says that, like Buffett says, if you talk to 5 or 6 competitors about a particular company, what will happen is you will get a very clear idea after that which company is the best company in that industry and which company is the worst company. And these things may not be apparent in the numbers, or they may actually explain why certain companies do a lot better than others over time. One of the dangers in investing is we can fall in love with a company or an investment. And when we fall in love with a company or an investment, rationality goes away. We are no longer thinking in a very rational, pragmatic way. We always have to kind of pull that back. And one of the techniques both Warren and Charlie use to try to understand how the future will unfold is by really studying the past carefully. So, for example, if you look at investment in BYD, which Li Lu was the first person who made the investment. And in fact, when he first invested in BYD, it was almost like a venture capital investment. It was very, very small. It was a very small company. But he already was able to see that the trajectory, and Chang-Fu Wang was a very unusual, very bright, and very hardworking person. When he later brought the company to Charlie's attention, Charlie went back and studied the very early history of Chang-Fu Wang when there was no company and he was trying to start something and he had no money. He had many siblings, I think like 7 or 8 siblings. There's a large family. One of his brothers, and Chang-Fu Wang was one of the youngest people in the family, but the brother saw unusual traits in his brother, and he helped give Chang-Fu Wang the money to get started. And then, of course, Chang-Fu Wang, once he got a little bit of money, he could get going. He was a genius at chemistry, and he works very long hours. He could build that business. But really, it was from Charlie's perspective, a Confucian ideal, kind of a Confucian principle to help the one who is most capable. And so he studied, in the case of BYD, he studied the very, very early history of the company very carefully. And then he also studied the trajectory. So, for example,